Hello and welcome back, PlayBASIC coders. Web development mode yet again. Still, this conversation is going to go for quite a while. I think we're nearing a point where we can kind of put a version out to the public. Since you can create your account now and some sort of basic features of the account, as you would have seen, the profile stuff, and I've got some extra stuff here I was looking at adding. Like the description things I was talking about, I thought, oh, well, I might push those down the schedule a bit further. At this point, we just need an account to be working and a way for you to register your existing purchases, which if you haven't watched the other videos, you go to products. I've already claimed these two products, but you would go to claim license and enter a serial and then hit claim, and if it finds that order, that key in particular, it gives you a yay or a nay. It'll look for PlayBASIC keys, PB to DLL keys, and if your keys are a certain era, we should be able to have access to both PB and PlayBASIC effects. So really what it should do there is it should just activate both. Clearly I've already done this for this account, which is what I was testing the other day. So thinking forward from here, we need to have, for each product, we need to go to, I've added these buttons here, but they're just really just placeholders. They don't do anything at the moment. So I'm thinking more like, like a downloads thing. And then once I select downloads, you'll go to this particular product page with a more elaborate version of the page where it's not a selection of these products. These descriptions here, they're just placeholder garbage I pull off the forums to make the records, because I had to make records for you so you had something to look at, And that's kind of the problem with this thing at the moment, is you've got to make the data for you to navigate through to get to what you want to do, So I think we'll probably have, downloads thing that goes to, do you want to download the base retail edition, or the updates? And if you went to updates, then you're going to have the same list of updates that the forum has had, and betas probably as well, but I may not put old betas up. I'm not sure yet. Depends how much pain I have to go through to get this update stuff to function. I think it should be okay. It's not that difficult, really. And the pain I'm talking about is this. This is a text file that has all of the updates that are in the update thread. So I've been through these already and made some changes. So all the titles now are in a particular format where I can grab the title and the date it was released, because I'll need that information for when we have a list of these things for you to look through. And they'll, unlike the forum thread, they'll be displayed from newest to oldest, just something that's can't really do in the forum, because the forum works from the other way around. It works from the existing post, and then the newest posts are at the bottom of the thread. So the newest releases in that context are the ones at the end of the thread. Okay, so here I've just put these delimiters between the different posts, but it's just the same text from the forum thread I should say. So we're using the same markup, a B for bolds, and these had I think a font size of 20 or whatever it was. URLs are the same. These we can patch these as we produce the record data and make something that's make a link that's inserted at display time to try and combat situations when we have links to old data that moves, which is a real pain in the backside when that stuff happens. But this is a long document. This is a very long document. Thankfully, I've kept most of the format the same. You've got a title and you've got a basic blurb at the top saying this update is an upgrade from this revision to such and such. Not that you're required to apply updates in order. Nothing of the sort, actually. The update replaces the compiler and the runtimes. It just doesn't have all of the files that the base retail files have. Many of those files, the base files, have never been updated. There's no need for them to be. Back in the day, when you're delivering things by modem all the time, so to upload big files, you had to go somewhere else, and so I would try and keep all the file sizes as small as possible so it's practical to upload them. Bit of insider information there, I guess. So we've got a basic blurb. In later editions, we've got a line like this that's sort of saying that this build includes the compiler, the runtimes, the updated slibs, the docs, and the IDE. I'm talking about these really old ones. If you go way down the bottom here to, like, these are issued in 2021, which is quite old now, but there's older ones at the bottom here. Where are we? What's the oldest one in this list? 2006. That's revision 1.23. So there's a lot of other ones that are older than this, but whether I can find those posts, and I don't necessarily need to have the old ones in these lists, but I wanted to have the data again in one place where you can pick through it, and ideally at some point we can do a search on those things and find key information about them. So then I'll split off the history, and if the patch has a file download in there, I'll just go find one. Go to the top, dude. There we go. Which is just a link in these things here. So we'll need to actually update. We'll pull out there's a reference to a file there. There's one. So I can grab the record, find this file reference, get our file name, and then do a download against your account, pretty much. So in other words, you'll have to be logged in to download updates, which is the same case as the forums anyway. You have to be logged into the forum to download updates, No big deal. Well, I guess some people will be upset. Because people are always upset. What I do have to do with this copy really is make sure that these history headers are consistent, so I can split them apart and then do some cleanup of this process through here. I'll just got to get rid of the indentations if I can, and then sort of have standardized indentation. I think it should work here. So lines that start with an asterisk will be sections or labels, you can think of them as, and these would just be points under that label. So maybe we could just have fixes in red, where's another one? Changes might be, in amber or something like that run. Yeah, and these could just be just normal, whatever, bold or something like that. It's a huge document, and it demonstrates just how poorly text editors work these days. If you can do this, the lag between adding a character is unbelievable. I mean, the lag in just editing a big text file like this is pretty terrible. If we jump over to CodeLite, I've got set up a bit of pre-processing code in the forum. into the web, the test version of the website. Just dump out the. What this does is it runs through the documents, uses the split token here to cut these records up into individual pieces. I won't have it all as one big document. It's just easier to do that stuff, to do global replacements and search and finds, rather than have separate files. Like there's obviously links in here that'll have to be updated dynamically to point wherever I need to point to. But for now, I'm not going to worry about those things. If our article has a blog, which is those long threads in the forum that that try and detail all the main changes or updates to each revision in one long thread. So I think in that case it makes sense that they are chronological. They go from first thoughts about an update through to whatever was added towards the end, which is normally like the release notifications at the very end of those threads. These kind of threads here, where you've got PB165, work in progress gallery, you've got this huge thread. This one's very long actually, where you've got links to the latest builds. So you can easily find those when you enter the thread. Revision betas that were produced throughout the life of this thing. Or if you want to go back and look at old blogs, you can go back through those. There's one for 164p. I try to have them be the same consistent sort of, just the same sort of format if we could make them like that. That's the thinking. There's older ones here as go. So we go back to a Philly 164L. It's pretty old. When's this? 2010. So all the way back 10 years ago, 13 years ago, this was something we were doing. Reasoning for this was to try and have this conversation be one long conversation about this particular topic. Because what used to happen is that there would be different threads about different aspects of an update that would have intermingled with, chit chat, and that's fine. I don't really have a problem with that, to be perfectly honest. But when you're looking for something and trying to find something, think of this from the user's perspective. If you're looking for something in particular, you're trying to find it, and you're wading through a thread that's, this one's only 7 pages long, but that's still pretty long. So if if you were just browsing the forum and going through the forum looking for something about this particular revision, what are they doing for 165 that's not in 164? It's better that the thread is mostly informational and not conversational. Try to find something from the user's perspective could be quite difficult. So we've got bits and pieces here about obviously there's some information about improving data. So beta 5 is all about improving the read and write and search commands in data. It's funny how you see a different solution later on. It's like, oh, that's how it should work. So in this case here, we're comparing 165 to 164p, which is only available to retail users, which is again, revision P is probably 6 years newer than the L revision of the free edition that's out there, the Learning Edition. It's just to check the performance against the two things. So this one here is running a whole bunch of these tests, the standard sort of test code. It's taking 25 seconds, and 165 is doing it 7 seconds quicker on the same system. And these would have been running on my Athlon system. The idea of these threads is you pick through, can follow the changes being made, in one cohesive place, rather than have, because they would honestly, used to be all of these different threads. I'm going back quite a while actually, where they were just everywhere. We probably will have to actually at some point bring the blogs from these forum posts into the website the same way. You know, they'll just be I'll just grab all the posts, put them into a document like this, and then clean them up a little bit and write a bit of a phrase that can display the standard kind of standard layout. So in this document that we've been piecing together, it's going through, splitting up on these nice unique headers. That's what they're there for. They're just there to split up into different records. And then we'll find, I'll make sure these are consistent, but I'll find these history chunks here, and then probably do, I might have to convert all the histories into this format here, and then just do a search for this, and then just grab everything below that. And this code block here will be, it's a pre-formatted section of text, so it's a straight ASCII. One thing I did think about before was that we not only could do formatting of these for the indentation stuff, make the indentation more consistent, but if we did notice a command in here, we could probably do either an automatic link back to the help files, or just have, maybe have a little thing in here like help link or something like that. And we're giving a hint to the phraser to insert a link back to this document thing of the documentation if it knows where it is. So I want to have as much of that cross-referencing back to the documentation as we possibly can. Another one came to mind afterwards actually, if we can get this updates thing to work, it should work fine, to be honest. If we flip back here, so we can pull out the separate records, pull out the titles, and if we just dump the raw text to the HTML stream, we'll get this kind of blob of what this stuff actually is. So that's one record there, it's highlighted. So we need to chop them up into what the important parts of this. Get the title, get the date, grab whatever link it has to any articles. If it has a link to any blogs that are associated with this particular build, these 165s, I think it's important that they link back to that main blog, because they're referencing probably the commentary that's in these sections here is probably assuming that you've read the stuff in the blog. That's why those links are there, trying to be more consistent. This is not about code really, it's about data. Making the data, massaging the data and making it sort of make sense to people it's quite complicated. Because what makes sense to one person doesn't make sense for someone else. So ideally we would get this, look, this is just a function that does an extraction of between titles. So if you went sort of, just to show history pause, we can go string position. I think these work, some of these commands in PHP work backwards. So you've got haystack and then you've got needle. We just search for, I think it's generally got bold around it. No, sorry. Bold history. That's probably a pretty good indicator. I'll uppercase the position. So let's say we check this thing here. If it's going to be bigger than 0, just an assumption there. History text. It's going to be substring of S from here to history position. So we want to grab the, sorry, wrong way around. We're just doing rough scouts for now. Who cares? So history text is going to be from this history position, and we don't need to give it an end, but you can just say string length of S for the number of characters we want to copy out of this thing. I don't like when it overwrites the brackets for you. That's kind of very frustrating with this editor, but generally I like this editor. So we can just get rid of that there for a second. That's the, think of that as a print statement. We're executing this on the server side, and every time you echo, you're piping data back to the browser. Alright, no dumb mistakes. Probably is there, probably is one. Just see if that works. So we have found, so look, 165 retail update, and it's found the history blocks. We'll grab from the history thing to the end of the document, which is good. That's what we wanted to do. So if I clean this here up, these headers here up a bit for these history markers, go over now, another one there. Where are we? Here. Make them all consistent. In the text file, I should just be able to grab that, grab the copy from the next row, this line here, grab all of it, and then clean the text up a little bit, and then recompose it and spit it back out. It sounds kind of silly, but we might even extract any videos there is to do those things from. That's an installation video. That may or may not be useful, really. Or even I could take this copy here out and then have it append that into every installation anyway. So it doesn't need to be part of the text. Like this blob here could just be a standard element that's sort of appended to the end of this text up here. So where are we here? So yeah, with a title, a standard header, and then our basic information about what was out of this update, and that line there doesn't need to be there as well. It's got a reference back to the PB website, of course. If there's no blogs, omit that section and have the download, as normal. So it'll pretty much look the same. So it shouldn't be that confusing. Well, I hope not anyway. But this installation block, that can be not part of the record. And once we've extracted the history blob from here, we could do another check here. Does our section have an installation section? If it does, trim it back to here and then make that assumption. As long as I've just picked through them all and made sure that they're all okay, should be fine. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Most of what I was saying before, this is not really a code problem, really. This is actually a data problem. Just manhandling the data a little bit. I'm not sure how much effort I want to put into these things in particular. Like these headers, these lines here, could be just replaced with horizontal line tags. This could be a bit like a slightly styled up version of the code box. I don't want to get too extravagant because it's just more work for me for nothing, really. But one thing that did come to mind, if we have downloading our retail versions and updates and whatever, we need like a bugs thing as well. I don't know where that's going to be. Will the bugs be related to, I mean, we have a bugs thing in here, and it would just be a dialogue like this. Go to contact, for example. Just a page with, where you've got like a heading and then a text box here for your whatever. And maybe some sort of drop down about what kind of bug this thing is. Is it compiler related, runtime, IDE? What else is there? Example pack problem, help file problem, whatever it's going to be. One of those ones. Who knows? But that's something else that we do need to have in there. I mean, bugs actually work the same way as what these other discovery threads work. The whole idea of these threads is that they're one piece of information after the next, right? So with bugs, you kind of do want them to be, each thread to be very concise and right on the money. This is a thread about a bug in this thing, right? Rather than having a thread about, this is a thread about 10 different bugs with conversation mixed in between those things. It's really, you got to think of it, from if you're trying to fix these things and look at them, you're going to look at the headline and not have to, if you have to weed through every bit of conversation to find the meat and potatoes of what the problem is, trying to get to those things and try to have them be in one place. There's a bug in this, and then we either have, when it's rectified, it gets ticked as being it's rectified in a certain revision, or if it's if the bug is the documentation's wrong, or the example's wrong, or the command set's wrong, whatever it is, it has some sort of notification saying, oh, here's the answer, this is what's expected, right? Then we can move on for those things, and and you can have all the ones that are, we can sort bugs that are things that are, simply do things like the ones that have been addressed, the ones that haven't been addressed, and just even that is really nice. Well, would be really, really nice to have that. It's difficult to do that on the forums, because the forums work in this, you post a thread and then all the successive communications occur below it. And if you end up with, threads, the really old conversations about the betas and that, going back when we were building PB originally, they weren't 7 pages long, they were like 30 pages long. You try and work your way through and find that thing that someone was talking about a week ago that they say, oh, you haven't fixed this thing. That's what I mean. That's what you want to avoid. So we're going to need something like that. As for how, I don't know. That shouldn't be too hard, since we have our forms framework working. We've got a simple database interface for doing that kind of problem that we can queue. What would be challenging really is making this connection between things. Is where it lives within this space. Does it live inside the product here, or is bugs a generalized thing about everything, or does each product have its own bugs? I think probably the latter makes the most sense. So you go to bugs about PBDL, blah blah, hit bugs. I found a bug in this thing. This code doesn't compile or whatever. What's wrong with it? Ideally, if you can have user responses like the conversation we're having about the documentation. This is all static HTML, by the way. It's not markup. The actual docs in your PB, they are built from markup into this. They're what you see here. Ideally, if we could do this, if this could render from the markup and not have the HTML, this could be any layout we wanted. If these were in markup, you could do, and you had a certain level about your account, you might have, your community level might be of a particular standing, and that allows you to do edits on the help files, or to add information to the help files where other people may not have that. I mean, the editor's not going to be pretty, it's not going to be fantastic. It's just the same as what editing a post would be on the forums. It just shows you the raw markup and you make the changes, and that's it. One nice thing about those is you can pretty much have infinite numbers of backups, so you can peel back. If something's wrong or something gets broken or something gets, someone becomes malicious and tries to do something, try and destroy data on the website, they're wasting their own time, because you can just go back and peel back those changes. We lost a bunch of stuff way back in the day. Like a lot of this old forum stuff back here about these old gallery posts, for example, this sort of work in progress gallery stuff. The really old ones were lost. They were deleted. The forums were attacked one day, and we lost thousands of posts. Latest in history. How far back does this stuff go? It's 2010. Okay. It's updated 2000 March. Okay. Are there older ones than that? Yeah, there are older ones. So we have ones that go back further. That's cool. Revision K has a whole bunch of graphical things in it, I think. Maybe it doesn't. Was it K or maybe it's that one there? Oh, this is the one, yeah. There are heaps of these. 163 to 164 was a graphical engine change. A lot of new code was written to do features, and then we changed the blit support in particular for sprites. It was rewritten to have this multi-stage sprite rendering solution, so you could read from any service you want and write to any service, which you couldn't do originally. That's how old that demo is. 2009. That is really old. I forget what the artwork's actually from some game people were talking about at the time, and someone said you can't do that in PB, and I said yeah, well, you can actually. I don't know what that was now. We've got linear filtering with mask color support, which is, if you've never had to do that, you're lucky. Brutal. But this is a good example of these blog kind of threads where you're trying to do all of this stuff in one place so it can be found easier. another page. You forget some of these. Oh, that's nice. Nice one as well. Each point, there's 4 vertices in this thing here, and for every pixel on the screen, you're computing how close these things are to each other. I love this example actually. This is one of the ones I really love the way it came out. It's a bunch of circles and they're plotted as vertices, and the vertices are doing interpolation between one shape and another. I think there's a video of it posted somewhere. Let's turn the sound off. So all the points are on the surface of the sphere, and then it's just morphing into a random volume of these elements. The depth cueing is they're just shaded based on depth. So it's a pre-computed table. Those Z values are the same all the time. So you can just kind of pluck them out of a table, and whatever fading out or morphing into the, it's really just doing an alpha blend between its actual colour and the background colour. When was that done? 2009. Hard to believe now, isn't it? These are other examples. You're required to log in for those things. It's one of those things that was trying to get people to become members of the forum and contribute to the forum rather than just be tire kickers. And that's what's going to happen with the main site as well. That's what it really, we'll move as much content as we possibly can across there, across to here. We've got more cleanup jobs to do. Like we're bringing this to, it's annoying, that thing. Something has pushed out the width of this panel. It shouldn't be able to, but it has. I think it's this block here. I don't think I've touched this really since. So it's probably set to an absolute size that's pushing out the document. I don't know. But actually, even things like that, like video transcript, we could have a code block that's 4 video scripts, and just make the text more engaging, make those things. And it's not that complicated. That would just be a split. Grab the text, split it out, and whatever the styling is set for this container here, this is a pre-formatted block. We could have some of the more rounded style, this kind of stuff here. It's just a rectangle with rounded corners and a shadow on the bottom. You can just see it there if you look closely. And that tends to make it look a bit more modern without doing anything really. Yeah. Anyway, so we're getting somewhere. Hopefully, you're sort of wrapping your head around the size of this kind of stuff. I wasn't keen to ever do this. I was actually wanted to have someone else do it, and couldn't really find anyone to do it. Yeah, I think if we can get the updates stuff over here. Wow, text is really blown out, isn't it? Get this thing into a form where we can at least view these articles, and then we can get to downloading a file. Then that's cool. We can actually at least put a version up and tell people it's a test. We're testing accounts, and they can try and claim their serial or whatever and get to their downloads, all that kind of stuff there, without having to go to the forum, because eventually the forum's going to have to go bye-byes. hopefully you've realised this stuff by now. The forum software we use is old, and we'll have to replace it. And whether we keep all of the old data or some of it or not, it makes no sense to keep all of it, because there's whole slabs of information on the forums in particular. Go back up here somewhere, go back to home. Like, you know, DTAB stuff on here, and the general dedicated stuff here, and the other forums you can't really see. Getting back to all this sort of stuff, so I think if we can get this even to a bare bones version, we can put it up, and we can at least get the online version have it becoming more consistent with this version. We can see if the account activation stuff was working okay for people. See how people's reaction to those things is going to be. Like most things, when you test it yourself, you really are asking for a punch in the face, pretty much, because eventually when you put this thing online, or you put this thing out in the wild, how people use your product is very different to how you use it. So I mean, things like, should we have this in the top menu here? Should this be under somewhere else? Do we need any, things, even this claim light, is this too complicated? Is this too obtuse for people? Do we need, a better description here or something of product? Or, I can just see people going, oh, what does this thing do? And it's like, oh, where's my cereal? Well, yeah. The other thought I was having about this account activation and attributing products to your account would be based on your email address. I did have a problem the other day where I was looking through the order history, and I've got a lot of emails from when purchases were made through Share It. That's pretty much fine. I thought I had them on my laptop here, and I was missing half of them. I don't know why, but they were gone. So I had to go fire up the old legacy development system, which has only been turned on a handful of times since the fire, and find them, that was fun. And I couldn't work out how the key system in this tool works. It was this, I built a processor that I could cut and paste the purchase emails that as they came into the processor, and then it would generate the keys, put them in it's a flat file database. But I actually couldn't find anything that had a list of these base keys to begin with. It's because they're generated on demand in this other tool. Anyway, but if we can get this thing rolling, where it's got enough functionality that we can have our updates, be displayed, and people can navigate and find things and download them, and that'll be the first port of call, I think. That stuff there, posts, downloads, they won't have any sort of functionality for the time being. The rest of it is actually working. So the profile stuff, you can go and edit your profile. Some of these things here are more liberal than they're more liberal when the site's in test mode than what they are actually in real terms. If this email address you give it doesn't exist, it won't allow you to do that. Password thing's the same. You enter your existing password and type the new one in, type it in twice and hit save, and that's it. I think at the moment that's not sending the email actually. But all the functionality for those things are already set up. It's just not doing those things at the moment. So we might have some teething problems, with the first few revisions of it, as you would expect. I mean, the look of everything too is this old placeholder. I do quite like the sort of black drop-in thing elements in here. I like this kind of one here. These are actually for social media icons. That's the theory at least anyway. So you can have like a smaller, blurb about who you are. And I'm unsure about whether, like, if you were logged into the site and you went to community, you could go and see other members. You know what I mean? And browse other members. Now, you might decide that you want to be private. So we need a private key in here that would just say this member, it doesn't appear in those listings. Or maybe we don't. Maybe it just includes certain ones. I do like the idea of having teams. This is something that other sites of this ilk don't have. So you can have, get some mates together on, you meet some people on the forum or whatever who are similar interests to you and decide that you all might want to make a game together or make some programs or whatever you're going to do. Why not make a team? Who cares? I can see that sort of biting us in the backside at some point, but why not? I see no problem with it whatsoever. Because eventually you want people to, produce things and publish things onto the gallery. Or you want people to update those things and be part of the community. Ideally, once you have an account, and then you can have access to updating or publishing things to actually to the gallery. Editing your content, doing that kind of stuff. They all pretty much have basic layouts, I would say, at least for the time being. So you can't really control the layout too much. And we probably won't have this limited width thing here. Probably have a wider. Try to make the site more dynamic so it works on phones. Anyway, waffling on there a bit. I think if we can get this next part of these product elements there working, and it seems to be working okay, then we can at least put up a version of what we have and then improve upon that within successive revisions. I'm not saying that your accounts will be compatible all the way through. We might need to make changes, and often, obviously, since we're still working on this thing, you might have to recreate your account at some other point, but there's not much data in them anyway, so it's not that hard. But ideally, I'm hoping to not do major changes, but there probably will be some. All right, thanks for listening. See you next time. Bye.